I'm trying this new thing in place of coffee. I know that it's old news, but I'm finally on the matcha train. A while ago, when I realized I didn't have as good of a hold on my anxiety as I thought I did, I limit myself to 1 cup of coffee a day. Having that second cup, whether it's immediately after or like later in the day, always gives me the jitters. But sometimes, well, first of all, I don't feel like coffee like gives me the up. I really just enjoy drinking it, which is why I allow myself 1 cup of coffee in the morning. But if I have that second one, I just don't feel good, and it definitely revs up my anxiety. So I finally started drinking matcha like in the afternoon, and I am loving it so far. I have to be honest, I was afraid of the taste, but this recipe is super simple. I add just a teeny tiny bit of honey and a teeny tiny bit of cinnamon, and I do it with oat milk. And I'm excited to try some hot versions because it is, I mean, I'm wearing a sweater, it's getting chilly. But yeah, if you want a pick-me-up with the benefits, also this one is like super great, has antioxidants, ceremonial grade obviously. So I can note more details if you're interested, but yeah, if you want a pick-me-up and don't want coffee, definitely recommend. And the taste is good. Welcome, I'm Claudia. If you're new here, if you're back, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Today I thought we would talk about self-watering planters. I was super against self-watering planters ever, like my entire plant care journey. I started collecting plants or like having plants I think 2017, and up until a year and a half ago I was very much anti self-watering pots. And even still now I see some and I'm like, or at least I get a little judgy on what plants are being potted into self-watering pots. But as a self-watering pot convert, because I love them and a lot of my collection is on self-watering pots, I thought that I would share with you what I have found to be the best self-watering pots for what like different substrates as well as plants. Hopefully that sounds good to you. I'm not gonna go in like particular order of this is the best self-watering pot, because for me I find different kinds of self-watering pots to be the best for a particular situation. So whether it's a potting medium or a plant, so that's kind of how I will be showing and introducing them to you. I'm gonna start off the bat and talk about self-watering pots that I am trying to stay away from. I still have some of them on that kind of pot system, and I am still like, when I see them and I like one, I still may get one. But in general, any pot with a clear reservoir like this, I am not a fan. It just builds up this algae almost instantaneously. You have to clean it all the time. It's not attractive, and it's not that it doesn't work, it's just really gross. And also, all of the ones that I've seen with a clear reservoir like this work on a wick system. The wick gets disgusting. I'm just not a fan of anything. As cute as this is without the algae, it's just not worth it to me. So anything in a clear reservoir like this, I wouldn't recommend. I don't think it's the best system for self-watering. I'll also say that I've tried this kind of setup in soil. It makes no difference with the algae. It's still really bad. It's basically the sunlight or light that hits. It's just like a perfect breeding ground for algae. First up, these are going to be my choice for like starter plants. So think of small plants that started in fluvial stratum or like came in a tiny plug or whatever. I like these for starter plants because they're quite small. Like, this is deceiving. The inner pot is only this big. I think it's like 3 inches tops and like 2.5 tall. And it has this little window where you can see the water reservoir. Now, I I like them for starter plants, but what I don't like is that even this little window is very inviting for algae. So you do need to wash this out kind of frequently so that it doesn't sit in there, plus it looks gross. But yeah, these are great little pots for starter plants, and they work on a wick. So, wow, I guess I need to repot this plant. I didn't notice the first time I showed you. But it just works on a simple wick system, and this is obviously the reservoir, so I like to always top fill. Another thing that I like is that the inner pot has these little air vents right at the top, so that it allows the roots to continue to breathe. And I just find them to be a great, perfect size for that, again, like that small transition period from like fluval stratum or rooting or what have you into a self-watering pot. And they were great whether it's soil or semi-hydro like pond, like I have this one. Speaking of semi-hydro, my favorite pots for pond, I will show you a few different versions. But this is one option. Looks very similar to the one I just showed you. This one is by Lechuza. And honestly, if I could afford to buy more of these Lechuza planters, I would. I just find that the meter is super reliable. I love that the inner pot is either white or clear. On the QB version, it's clear. And yeah, mostly it's the fact that the meter is super reliable, whereas some of the other options I'll show you, they tend to get stuck sometimes and you have to smack it a little. But these Lechuza planters, I forget what this one's called. I don't know, but the other one that's more square is called a Kubi. I can show you that one next, and these work great. This is the Lechuza Kubi version, or Kubico, I don't remember. But so it's just a little bit bigger than the other one. These are both considered the small size, and I do like this one a little bit better because it has the clear inner pot. So we can keep an eye on the roots really good. Again, I find these have the wick also, but I find the water meter to just be super reliable. I mean, imagine that. The makers of Lechuza Pond made a planter that works perfectly with their products. So I also love these taller ones, these either Kubi or Kubico, I can't remember, for my pendant Antheriums. I think they just work really well because in general, and we'll get to that one in a minute, but plants that I have in pond tend to need kind of a deeper pot. So these two Lechuza options are great for them, in addition to like an Antherium that would have those pendant leaves, but these work great. And I believe this one also comes in 2 sizes, although it does come in like a super huge size as well, but you know, that's if you had something ginormous. And just a second to appreciate this King of Spades. Look how cute. In general, other than Lechuza planters, these would be my choice for pond or semi-hydro if you have another method. And they're pretty similar to that system that you saw on the Lechuza, only I don't think I've found any of them with this meter that have a clear pot. They're all either white or black, and these do not work on a wick. So let me bring this out. This is heavy. Oh, there's a little root. So, yeah, these don't work on a wick. It has a ton of little drainage. Oh my gosh! It has a ton of little drainage at the bottom, and you just keep the reservoir, you know, to a certain level or what have you, and it wicks up. I find that they work. Let me put this back before I create a bigger mess. I find that they work super, super well. My only complaint, as I was saying, is sometimes the meter gets stuck, and as I'm filling the water, I'm like, the meter should be going up, and it's not, and you kind of have to just like give it a little smack and it unstucks, and then it starts working. But I mean, really, if that's my biggest complaint, then it's not really a complaint at all. So I have versions of this pot. It's not just like one brand is the one to get, but I have versions of the spot in this style as well as kind of like the cube and different sizes as well. I believe the smallest I can find is a 4.5 inch, and then I just got, and I showed you in a previous video, or maybe I'm going to show you after this one, I don't know, but I just got a larger one from this other brand that's like a 9-inch pot. And they all work in that similar manner. Again, the only thing is that inner liner is always a solid color, so you can't really see the roots, but it works really great, and they're typically much more affordable. So this is a 7-inch, I believe, and I got this in a pack of 3, I think, for like $18 or $19. And there are other brands, especially the square ones I think I've seen, where they have a 5-pack of 7 for like $28 or $30. I don't know that I've bought any of those. But yeah, these work really, really well. I love them. I'm really happy with them. You can see the plant is really happy. All of my plants in these kinds of pots do really well. And this is what I would say I have majority of my semi-hydro collection in. Next, let's talk about self-watering for soil. So my favorite self-watering system for soil is something like this. You've seen me use these before in my channel, and I know that I said anything with a clear reservoir is a no-go, but for some reason these are different. I don't know if it's like the clay pot or what, but yeah, I don't have the same problem with the algae on these as I do with like the ones with the wick. So these are really innovative. This is the first self-watering pot I ever used, and I just like saw it online and I thought it looked beautiful. I was very anti self-watering pots, as I said, so I thought to myself, if I'm gonna give this a try, I might as well do it with one that's beautiful. And this was it. And the first plant I put in here was a Caleithia zebrina. No, was it? Maybe it was. I don't know. But anyway, she is alive and well and thriving immediately. So then I got a couple Marantas. I transferred them into a pot like this. I have a variegated peace lily. She's doing great. I have a begonia, and just anything in like that I have in a system like this does really well. Now, I will say that I choose to put plants in self-watering systems in soil that are really thirsty. So like, again, Caleithia, Maranta, plants that don't like to dry out, that's what I prefer to put in self-watering. I don't think that you would ever catch me putting like a ficus, not the petiolaris, but like your traditional like elastica or fiddly fig or something like that. I don't think that you would catch me doing any of those in a self-watering pot, but I don't know, never say never, I guess. I prefer to add those that like to stay consistently moist, and this particular pot works great for that because it's all glazed except the bottom 2 inches of the terracotta, and terracotta is porous, usually sucking moisture from the plant, but in this case also from the reservoir, so it just creates that perfect balance where the soil is always moist. And then I just refill when it's empty. But yeah, this works really, really nice. So it's a glass vase, and then this is your plant. And I mean, you can see this Caleithia. She's very happy, thriving. The occasional brown tip, but overall she looks really good. I guarantee you I could not have a Caleithia if she wasn't on a self-watering system that was working for her. So I'm really, really happy that I found these and that these work so well. I feel like when I first shared these, or even when I share them now, people have tons of questions, and you know, I don't know all of the science of how and why this works. I just know that it does, and that my plants that are in it are very, very happy, so that's good enough for me. I only have 2 more to show you. One would be my recommendation for turning any pot into a self-watering pot without needing much, and that's this little setup. So I actually bought this brass It's called a watering straw, I believe, and it basically just has a wick on both ends. You pot one end onto the plant, and then you have the other one in a little water reservoir, and this has worked really great for me. I just found that this Patriciae wanted more consistent watering than I was doing or that I typically do with my plants. And I saw this little watering straw. I think I set it up with you. And it's been working great. I think it's pushed 2 or 3 new leaves since adding it into this setup. So it's much happier. There's no browning. It hasn't lost any leaves since. So I feel like this is a quick, little easy, and you can even DIY a version of it to make any pot self-watering. And then last but certainly not least, my absolute favorite for Alocasias and Antheriums are these 3 printed pots. These are from Rare Plant Bay. You've seen me use them before. I do have a discount code if you're interested, but that is like not even it. I discovered them several months ago. I don't know. I can try to note it if I remember. But the reason I love them, kind of like I was saying before, is that Antheriums, as you may know, grow roots from the top. So the fact that these are deeper is just such an asset. And then Alocasias exhibit A tend to also, or can also root from the top of the stalk, and they have, or sometimes they have those longer petioles and leaves, and they just work fantastic for them. So they come with the inner liner, they work on a wick, this is a reservoir, and the fact that the liner is clear so we can keep an eye on the roots, we love that. And then the cover pot is solid white so that it doesn't grow any of the gross algae. It's just win, 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 win. Like, they're absolutely the best. These come in 4 or 5 sizes, I believe. And I currently have my Antherium clarinervium potted in the biggest size. And it's, I mean, it's a pretty hefty, nice size of a pot. And I love them. I think this is the 4.5 inch. So it comes in a 4, 4.5, 5.5. I can't remember, but I'll know all the details in case you're interested. But by far, these are the absolute best for Alocasia and Antherium specifically. They work with either semi-hydro or soil, and the fact that they're on a wick, it just makes it so easy. And again, you can, I mean, I just feel like these really hit all the dots. They have the clear inner pot, the solid outer pot. They're that deeper type of style, just, yeah, just great all around. Something I'd really suggest if you are not familiar with self-watering or semi-hydro or any of that is I would start off with like just 1 or 2 plants in one system, and then really get to know whatever that substrate is that you're using in the self-watering pot, and then how your plant is reacting. Like, does it want the reservoir, like does it want a constant drip sort of thing, or like the reservoir doesn't run dry for days at a time, or does it prefer that? Yeah, just kind of monitor those things and see how it goes as you start to get a little bit more comfortable. For the most part, I've acclimated all my plants to where the reservoir always has water, or they never go dry for more than like a day or 2, and that's totally fine. Pond is also really forgiving if you grow in pond, so it self-regulates moisture, you know, for a period of time depending on your environment. But that's also something to consider if you haven't grown in pond and you're curious or interested. But yeah, I would mostly recommend pick one type of self-watering system that you want to try, pick 1 or 2 plants tops, and then just really learn how the plant is reacting with when you fill the reservoir and that sort of thing. And then go from, you know, as you do that, then you will feel more comfortable adding more plants or switching up systems, because you'll kind of know what you're looking for, what to expect. And then also just a quick note, I get a lot of people that say that when they move their plants to semi-hydro, they start to rot. That is, I do have a lot of content on how I successfully move plants from soil to semi-hydro. So if you're interested, I can link that info. But basically, that's normal to an extent because soil roots are different from water roots. So when you move a plant from soil to semi-hydro or to hydro completely, it needs to shed all of those soil roots that will rot off to grow new ones. Now, that is a big shock and transition on the plant, so it can lose leaves, it can take a while, but I have some info and some content on how I successfully transfer them with minimal shock if you're interested in that information. Okay, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful or entertaining. I'd love to know what self-watering pots you use. I feel like I say this often. We really don't have that many choices, and we especially don't have that many choices when it comes to like the deeper pots. So if you know of any that I didn't mention, please drop them down below. Also, if you have any questions or any comments, let's chat down in the comments. I love connecting with you. All right, so this is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.